It's Pride Month, and I know everywhere Pride Month comes up, there's always controversy. It's like the Queens just have to wait till June to stir things up. And so tonight we got someone from New York City to talk about some of that. And that's Brian Downey with the Gay Officers Action League. Brian, come into my basement.
Hey, how
Hi,
are you?
hi, Brian. Nice to see you. All right. So, first of all, tell us about your organization goal.
Oh, the Gay Officers Action League was founded in 1982, originally to support active duty retired LGBTQ law enforcement officers and criminal justice professionals to address their unique needs in that space to carve out a safer and better space for them. Since then, we've evolved a little bit to and we have an education component providing sensitivity and awareness materials to our non-LGBTQIA plus counterparts in the law enforcement, criminal justice fields. We serve as policy advisors, as both best practices inside of the employment space, but also working with the community at large, and finally to promote a positive relationship with our community. So here we are, almost 40 years later. So we're coming up on the 40th anniversary of Goal next year.
Very good. And what's your position with the organization?
I've been the president since January 1st, 2016. So it's been
no one else wants it.
That's an interesting question. I'm actually trying to bring some other people up now and kind of put them out in the media, in the public eye, to kind of see how they feel interacting in that fashion, and seeing what they can kind of do on their own, and letting them thrive right now, because I think that it's always important for the organization to remain current, to have some people with new ideas come up and be able to implement them. So it's an exciting time for me, I think, to look to the future and kind of see what our leadership is going to look like next. So
very good. You're planning ahead. I'm sure you're a good mentor. All right. So Pride celebrations coming up in New York City, the last Sunday of June every year. And they let it be known that they didn't want police officers involved, or what was their statement there?
Well, I think the statement was, there's been a call to remove police from Pride for a number of years. This isn't something that's new to the United States. Started kind of in 2016 in Toronto with the stoppage of the march in Toronto, and the kind of forcing of the organizers to sign a document stating that there could be no more police presence in Pride, no more exhibitions, no more tabling, no more recruitment. And there has been attempts in recent years to kind of have that happen here in New York City, and now it finally has happened. So here we are. I think it is very important. First of all, it's very important to our folks to be able to express themselves as people that go into a system and try and affect change. I think that we have been somewhat successful in our history in affecting change, both inside of law enforcement as a whole. So many of our people, because the NYPD is this massive employer in the region when it comes to criminal justice and public safety, people with those career ambitions, it makes sense that we would have the largest demographic in our organization from the NYPD. But also what's important, though, is that the work that we do inside of the NYPD when it comes to policy, when it comes to public interaction, when it comes to outreach, that gets looked at both across this country and around the world. And people look at, we weren't the first, when you look at the NYPD, to have kind of an internal process for people to transition while at work. We weren't the first, but we got it done here. And I worked very closely with Julie Callahan of the transgender community of police and sheriffs, and she's out on the West Coast. And Julie sent me policy that she had been implemented, let's say, in the San Diego County Sheriff's Office or the LA County Sheriff's Office. I'm not I'm not in that West Coast space right now. I wish I was for a little bit. It'd be nice to get away for a few days, but to have that work done out there, to bring it here, to say to the NYPD, look, you're supposed to be a global leader. This is what's going on elsewhere. Why aren't we? It's a shame we weren't the first, but we need to catch up. And the NYPD listened and they did it. And I think that now that work is kind of looked upon by other people in the law enforcement, the criminal justice community. Hey, this is what NYPD is doing. Why don't we have this? We need to get this. So that was important. In 2012, the patrol guide for the NYPD was implemented to have better interactions with the transgender community, from everything from pronoun use to the way prisoners are lodged, and some of that was a whole big mess before that had been implemented. And has it been, an overnight change? I don't think so, because you're talking about generational differences. I think we kind of live in a binary world, whether that's right or wrong. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that we do. And I think as we keep going with these policies, we keep going with instruction, we keep going not only at the recruit level when people first come into agencies, but continue it going along with supervisory ranks. And we're now also doing people that have a public interaction as part of the uniformed agency. I think that you will see a continued improvement, if not a drastic improvement now, as these issues become more well known in all walks of life, in all corners of society. We were doing that work kind of before a lot of other people were. And the one thing about those 2012 changes is, the sad part about it, you look at what's going on right now, is everybody was at that table. Chris Quinn, who was the former city council speaker in New York City, she really put that working group together. That included Goal. That included, the Anti-Violence Project. That included the Civil Liberties Union. Everybody was kind of working together, and I think that more happens when we work together. So when you have this movement right now to take us out of the equation, for many of our folks, that means a lot of different things. To some people, if you look at me, and I hate to personalize, but I wasn't out until I actually came into the law enforcement space. I was out after a couple of years in my fraternity, but the college campus is a safe space, right? We want our educational institutions to be these places where ideas can flourish and where people can feel safe. But the moment I got off that campus, the faster I ran back into the closet. It wasn't until I came into the police department, I found out about Goal. I was immersed with people that had done great work. When you look at Edgar Rodriguez, probably the most hard-charging president we've had in quite some times. Our immediate past president, Carl Locke. Carl Locke ran the David Geffen AIDS Project at the Gay Men's Health Crisis before he was a cop. He was the director of client services at the AVP. He was an accomplished social worker. Could have went out, and he went into this system to change it. And I'm lucky enough to count that guy as a best friend. And you look at these people that did these legendary things, like sue the police department so queer cops could breathe the same air as everybody else. And I talk about Fran DeBenedictis and Colleen Meehan, these wonderful, wonderful people. And I was so lucky. And 2009 was my first Pride. It was my first Pride ever. I would have volunteered to help you paint your house In Pennsylvania, before I would ever stand there with a rainbow flag, and I got to learn about the history of the community. I got to learn about drag queens. I got to learn about house and ball, and I felt such a relief, and that such a pressure was released from my shoulders. And that's why I'm so passionate about goal, and I'm so involved. It's because I felt that something was given to me, right? I felt like, and I need to give back. I can't just take all this love, all this understanding, all this knowledge, all this wisdom, and just keep it bottled up inside of Brian. I was scared out of my mind the first time I marched on Fifth Avenue about the broadcast, about my family, about who's going to see me, about the other cops, Michael Dye, who we just lost a few weeks ago to 9/11 related cancer, was a New York City police detective, and there were times that morning where I wanted to go home, and it was Michael with his hand on my shoulder, the whole time, and just this is your space. This is for you. Don't worry about it. Don't look at them. I mean, I'm Irish, and I have Irish descent, and I'm usually as white as the wall, a freshly painted white wall, and I was extra white that morning. We get on the route, and I had Mark Rodwando, an Asian police officer who's now a lieutenant in the NYPD Aviation. And I had him to my right, and over my right shoulder, I had John Hayes, who's a New Jersey State Trooper. And I'm thinking to myself, when I grew up in Bayonne, New Jersey, which I could walk out my front door and look at right now, and that's a place that might as well be 5,000 miles away, right? It's a place you might as well be able to have to take a plane to get to. And the New Jersey State Police are probably not at the time what we would declare a forward-thinking or progressive agency. And I'm like, wow, that's a New Jersey State Trooper. And he's carrying a rainbow flag. And, all these people just gave so much to me. And
all right, Brian. Okay, Brian. So what's the objection? What's the objection of having? I know it happened in Toronto. It's happened in Burlington, Vermont too. That people have asked the police not be involved.
Talk about the objection. The objection is that the police are triggering to BIPOC community, to to people that don't look like me, and I can certainly agree to that. I have been very forthcoming with my opinions, and I've shared them publicly for years, and I've shared them with the highest levels of leadership in the police department, that communities have had a very difficult and hurtful experience at the hands of the criminal justice system. Not just the queer community, but communities of color. And I've worked very hard to even get my white police counterparts to kind of understand the experience of someone that doesn't look like us. You don't know what it's like to walk into a store and have people follow you around like you're going to rob the place. Yeah. You don't know what it's like to have a group of people cross the street, from the sidewalk that you're on, because they're just that uncomfortable in sharing the same space with somebody that doesn't look like you.
All right, so our police won't be there for protection. I would think that, how many hundreds of thousands of people are expected that day? Won't there need some sort of security?
Well, let's look at that. Okay, so that's really that's the NYPD's house. That's not really the house of goal. To really met out with these organizers. I don't think that that's a very realistic thing that is going to be accomplished. And that brings us back to why this is another sad moment for goal, because we feel that we were, not that I think we are, but we were kind of treated as the low-hanging fruit. We we can just get rid of these folks, and we know we still have to have the other folks there. So what message does that send to people in your own community? There's always going to be an argument. I did a New York Times podcast with one of their organizers recently called The Argument, and I'm saying to myself, why are we arguing? I don't understand. We're part of the same community. My members are part of the same community. That experience that I had, that I shared with you, that is a very, very common experience for people. There's people that have transitioned as police officers. They bring a struggle. It's not mutually exclusive.
Right.
They bring the struggle. They bring everybody has a coming out process. Everybody has internalized homophobia. These are things that we all have, and I think it's important that we wear those uniforms so when people see us, they know who we are. You can put anybody in a t-shirt and anybody in a polo shirt, but I think that we go into this system and we rock the foundation. Our mere existence is important, because systems don't change without people having folks work from within to affect that change, as well as people on the outside. Both, there's a yin and a yang here. Both are important, equally important. So when we march with those uniforms on, people get incredibly loud. They get loud. I can remember some of my earliest experiences walking down Christopher Street with that uniform on, and it's deafening. The noise level that it gets deafening. I can remember reading people's lips. I had this young, almost militant lesbian, and it's so loud that you can't hear what she said. But when she saw me and we locked eyes, all I heard was "fuck yeah," that's what she said. And how awesome is that?
So, will you be at Pride? Will you be there as Brian Downey? Will you be there as president of Goal? Will you be there as officer or captain or whatever your rank is?
I'm a detective, but I think, well, this year the Pride is virtual anyway, and we didn't participate in a virtual Pride last year. We weren't going to participate in a virtual Pride this year. It just wasn't, there were other things that we were doing. Our attention has been in a lot of different areas right now, especially we do have some initiatives that we've been working on for the last year with the police department, and we're hoping that some of that work gets out there soon. I have a meeting on that tomorrow. So, we will not be there this year, but we do want to wish everybody that's participating in whatever Pride means to you. If that means being part of the Queer Liberation March, we hope you have a great day. We hope you have a safe day. We hope that you have a liberating day. If you're part of Heritage of Pride, if you're part of any other, community or municipality or state in this country and around the world, we wish you a very, very happy and safe Pride.
Well, thank you so much, Brian. Let's show their website one more time, Russell. The Goal website. There it is, and you can find out more information. Do you have merchandise for sale at that website?
Yes, we do, and we have some new stuff coming in the next few weeks. And we're actually gonna. That's another meeting I have tomorrow, is to work on some changes to the website and work on some changes to social media. So my good friend Anthony Nuccio and our corresponding secretary, Sally Polizzi, we're going to have tacos tomorrow afternoon, and hopefully some margaritas too.
Okay.
That was very interesting. I must say that the apple, I knew about the tin can. We were instructed on the tin can by a guy his name was Jose, and we used to call the tin can, it was a tin Jose. And I really hope that when I retire, now that everything is legal, I have some years to go, about six and a half years. But I think the apple is very interesting, and I wonder if it changes the flavor. So
well, you come up to Vermont, we have wonderful apples up here and some pretty good green too. Brian, thank you so much for joining. Happy Pride, Brian. Thank you for what you're doing. I know this is a difficult time, but thank you. Thank you, Brian. Yes. All right. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Oh, it's a tough subject to talk about. What do you think?